welcome to our podcast, Simply Be Kind. If this is your first time listening, this podcast is a series of conversations with people about kindness. We hope that today's episode inspires you to do one kind thing today because it's easy to simply be kind. Here's a dark secret about me. I did not have a good relationship with money. I didn't grow up rich, so for me, money was a luxury. And don't get me wrong, my parents were always generous with their money for me, but somewhere along the way, I learned to be careful with money. And that worked incredibly for me. I was so good at saving until I wasn't. I spent money on gifts and treats for others, but I had to think at least 5 times before I could spend on anything on myself. When you think about money, how often do you align it with kindness? So in this episode, we're going to talk about just that. I have with me today 2 guests. I have Namrata Durgan, who is the founder of Mir Investments, who has helped transform the lives of many people through their money with her financial expertise. And I also bring back to the show Nirali Desai, who is a highly acclaimed tarot reader and a manifestation coach, who has helped so many people actualize their dreams. And while they're both experts in their fields, they're not here to share advice. They're here to talk about their experience. Let's start off with you, Namrata. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you so much, Teras, for inviting me for this brilliant podcast.
Do you think it's a common occurrence where people are just as guilty with their finances as I am?
Yes, in my experience, I have seen that people feel really, really guilty when it comes to spending money, more so when they have to spend on themselves. I have realized it is because of their own very deep social conditioning that they have, which we do not realize. So what we have to do is that first of all, we have to go right deep into our subconscious and see why is it that we feel guilty.
As I started to get wiser and as I started to learn about being kind to myself, I have identified that yes, maybe I am unkind to myself when it comes with money. It made sense for me when money was tight, but when I started earning more and when I started getting promotions, all I would do is just lock them up in mutual funds and I didn't want to touch them because I thought that money was not for me and it's not something that I deserved.
So here, what I can say is that the first thing is that you have to accept yourself. The moment we accept ourselves is when self-love comes in. And with self-love, it leads to spreading your happiness and joy. And with that, automatically, effortlessly, kindness comes. So the first step, as I have said, is only and only about your total acceptance, the way you are and how you are.
That's a difficult pill to swallow, and I think that's really something to think about. Why don't I deserve this? Self-love is important, and I totally agree. But I also don't want to dismiss the fact that it could be more than just not loving yourself. It sometimes does come from trauma, and there's a word for it called chromatophobia, which is this extreme, irrational, and overwhelming fear of money, specifically spending money. I don't know if anyone who's had the extreme version of it before, but I do sometimes relate. And they say that it comes from either being in debt before, or watching your parents fight over money, or having a stressful experience with money, and more. But I think I've started to learn, and even throughout our conversation, I'm starting to learn that money is not really a curse and it's not meant to be static. I remember the last time we met, you had this really beautiful thought on currency. Can you share that with us?
So we all should wonder that why money is called as currency. Currency is something to do with current. Money is like a flow. It is supposed to flow. It is supposed to flow like a current. And if it is kept in one place, it becomes stagnant. So that is why they say that if a water keeps on flowing, it grows and it brings abundance all over. But if it is put in one place, it stagnates and it starts to it doesn't come across good. The same is with money. The more you start to give it from one point to another point, like for a very small example, if I get salary, from the salary, that money I give it to the grocery guy. The grocery guy gives it to his family,
Mm-hmm.
and from there it goes on, and that's how it is a flow, and that is why money is considered as current. So what we have to understand is that we should keep the current on of money,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why we have this myth that we should hoard money.
Yeah.
Hoarding money is a different thing, while saving is something else. And that's what we have in investments, where we let the money work for you, where the flow starts to work. So
Okay.
always remember that we should keep the current on of the money. The currency should be there.
No, that's really beautiful how you said that about how money really flows. And I think that's just a beautiful analogy to kind of realize that, okay, money has its purpose even when it leaves you. So I think that's really a beautiful message to send. I now want to go to Nirali Desai, who has supported so many women on their path to a better relationship with money. Nirali, I know that you also believe in something quite similar. We've spoken about the importance of being fluid with money in the previous season. So can you tell us a bit more about how should someone attract money and what should their relationship with money be like?
When it comes to attracting money, this is something that a lot of people struggle with. And the underlying cause of it is fear, because they have this fear mindset about money, that I need money to survive, or maybe money will come to me, but it will take some time. So they have this negative, fearful, emotional connection with money.
Okay.
And I understand where they come from. But if you want to attract money and build that relationship, then first acknowledge that fear.
Mhm.
Second, why is that fear there?
Mhm.
And do you believe that you can come out of that fear mindset and live positively in your life with money? And I think it's really asking these questions to yourself and changing the mindset will help you attract and build that relationship with money. But it takes time, and it will happen slowly and gradually. If you will try to push it, then it's just going to be a toxic relationship where you're bad one day and good the next day. So slowly and gradually building the mindset and that love with money is how you attract it, or that's how I have attracted it.
Okay, so basically you're saying that if you push yourself, then you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to attract money, and the second you don't, you're just like, okay, why am I not thinking this anymore?
Yeah, and I think it's the answer is always within you, and if you keep asking yourself questions and then answer, and then question the answer, and then question the answer, you will eventually find how will you attract it.
Okay, so I mean, one thing that you just said just now is that you have to believe in yourself, and I think self-worth is also something that is tied to that. But how can someone that really struggles with self-worth really manifest money or manifest anything?
So work on self-worth and limiting beliefs. So most of our memory is in all of our memories in subconscious mind, and we only have 5% of access to our conscious mind, and 95% is subconscious mind, right? So I think working on the memories that really comes in front of you when you think about holding yourself back, or when you think about self-worth, writing those memories down. And when you start writing, there will come many more memories, and then changing or shifting again. I'm talking a lot about mindset because it is about mindset and also what you have gone through. Shifting that and creating new space of new memories, of new mindset will help you or anyone to work on their self-growth, self-worth. For me personally, I always relied on other people to validate my self-worth. So I have started validating myself and being polite and kind to myself. And that's how I think anybody could really focus on building their self-worth. Being kind, knowing what affects you and changing that, and just working on yourself constantly. It's a lifelong journey.
That's true. And what I've also learned through my own like self-discovery and that journey is that there is very simple ways that you can kind of break that mindset or maybe have that shift in the mindset. So for example, there was a time when I didn't believe that I was deserving of spending like buying myself a simple meal. There was a point where I didn't feel like I deserved it. And then someone guided me on saying that why don't you just try it out, because it's just 100 rupees, it's not that big a deal, why don't you just try it out? And when I did, I kind of realized that okay, nothing bad happened. I think the thing that happens is that everyone is afraid of spending because you feel like something bad is about to happen. But when you do it and when something bad doesn't happen, I think it's a great way to tell your mind that look, nothing bad's happened, you're okay, it's okay to spend, you can spend a little more. And I think that's something that you were talking about as well, and I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm so happy that you tried it out, because then you realize there was no need of the guilt factor or nothing bad happened. I think it's just wonderful what you have experimented and also experienced after buying yourself a lovely meal. And I hope this podcast also helps other people realize the same thing.
Thank you so much for being here and giving us your time.
Thank you. I hope we keep the flow on.
No, thank you so much.
I'm going to take back one message from this conversation, and that is to be gentle with yourself and to be kind to yourself when you're talking with money. When you're kind towards money, you're kind towards yourself, and you just open yourself up for more growth. Thank you so much for listening to the Simply Be Kind podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, can you do us a huge favor and rate and review it? Because it helps more listeners find the show. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or whatever platform you use. Each episode is under production for around a month, and hence we only release it once a month. So it's a huge help if you can take your time to review it and share the episode with your friends and on social media. And of course, be sure to check out our page, Kind Hearts Brigade, on social media, where we aim to have more conversations surrounding everyday kindness. If you have any thoughts on today's episode, or you have topics that you would want us to further touch upon, reach out to me on Instagram. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.